Bojack Horseman has ended its 6-season run.
Yes.
Finally, for good, it is done. And I have to say, I'd say some of the more powerful episodes of the entire series has happened in season 6. So the send-off that they've given it, I'm not upset by. I think they went ahead and they ended it as best they could without there being like... Oh, also, for those of you who haven't seen this final season and the final episodes, there is also going to be spoilers in this too.
Yes.
It's spoilers all around. I do like that they did this without actually killing him. Because that... The whole vagueness of it, of
you
where
didn't
to go
give him
from
a chance to shut off the audio. It's like spoilers. Yeah, so he didn't die.
Well, I'm sorry. How much of a beep
Give
truck
it
backing up do you have to
3
do?
seconds.
It's like it's been out for 2 weeks. It's been out longer than Birds of Prey was. All right.
There's shows on Netflix I've been wanting to watch for 2 years.
Well, that's
It
your
takes a
fault
while.
for not being committed to the framework that Netflix has presented you with everything possible.
I'm
spending all of its money, going into bankruptcy possibly one day, and you're not even watching the content.
By the way, that will be a new segment coming to the JT and Big O podcast soon. When the hell did Netflix make that? No, I'm not joking. That is a segment I'm creating because there are so many shows on that channel that are like, when the hell did they make that? Like one of my favorite series I discovered by mistake. I'll get right back into Bojack Horseman, but I just wanted to go off on this real fast.
So see, now this is the break for the spoilers.
Yes, this is the break for the spoilers.
Oh, God.
So there is a show called Altered Carbon, which is one of my favorite shows, and I discovered it by mistake on there. I'm like, oh, they got a new show. And it was like so well made. It felt like a TV version of Blade Runner with the stylization of it. And then I didn't hear anything about season 2. I'm like, okay, I guess it was canceled. And then like 2 weeks ago, I heard, oh, well, season 2 is going to be premiering on February 14th. I'm like, I didn't even know you approved of season 2. Like, when did this happen? They just make stuff. They don't advertise it. They don't tell you about it. It's just like, boom, there's a show. Watch it.
No, sometimes they'll have things, like more so they'll have things posted on like the actual series page where it's like, another season is coming or been renewed or premiering something or other.
No real advertisement outside of that.
Well, Netflix itself doesn't do much advertisement per se. I mean, they're
they're
not very
to.
advertiser friendly. Period. So
as you alluded to, at some point they're going to need to start doing some of this stuff, or they're going to go to bankruptcy. It's like you're not the only game town anymore. Netflix, you can't be spending all that money, and eventually none of us are going to want to pay $12.99 a month for all that either.
Right. Well, that was the thing. I think the fact that they thought they were the only game in town, and so because they only were the main streaming that you'd go to, anything new you'd see while you were on Netflix. You wouldn't have to see it outside of it. But now you do.
But speaking of which, where they'll spend so much money, they'll give former President Obama a TV show for $1 million, or was it $1 million, or was it more than that?
Oh, I don't know. I still haven't even watched Letterman, so I don't even know what his show's going to be like.
That's right. They gave David Letterman a whole bunch of money for his new show. They gave, we talked about this last week with
Chelsea
Scorsese.
Handler had her show on there for a while. Michelle Wolf had a show. Hassan Minaj still has a show. But
it's not even just giving people shows. I'm saying they're just spending a lot of money on these shows. Like Dave Chappelle is probably one of the more famous cases of $60 million for 4 comedy specials.
Yeah, but they were banger comedy shows.
They were banger comedy specials, but who else makes $60 million for 4 comedy specials?
Who else is bringing in that many viewers?
What, did he bring in that many viewers? Did everyone like, oh, Dave Chappelle's back, I gotta get that subscription?
Well, I mean, whenever Dave Chappelle has popped up, whether it was SNL or whether it's doing these things, it's
but even Dave Chappelle himself,
so it brings eyes to it.
But even Dave Chappelle himself said, like, I would have done it for $20 million.
Yeah, he would have, because he's not about that limelight. But
But again, that's Netflix not spending more than they need to on stuff, and that's the point I'm trying to get at there. But going back in the other direction, now you have Bojack Horseman, which has been one of the most popular series since Netflix really started creating its own content.
See, I'll correct you there. I don't know if Bojack Horseman was necessarily popular. Critically acclaimed and revered, yes. But as far as popular, like
Yeah,
I
I'd
don't,
say it was popular.
I wouldn't say like
I
anybody that's got a Netflix account has been watching it. It's not like Stranger Things. It's not like back Orange is the New Black. It was one of those flagship shows.
I mean, I can only really speak for myself, but this was one of the 2 or 3 series that made me keep coming back to Netflix. I always was paying attention to when a new season came out.
Right.
And, from what I heard, you're talking about critically acclaimed. I figured it was also a popular show too that people wanted to watch. So you're saying it didn't have a strong audience?
I'd say it had a loyal fan base. Yes, but in comparison to other shows that on Netflix that have had mass appeal, I don't think it played in like that, and I think that's probably why you didn't have to worry so much about like when the season came out, because the season would come out and that would be it.
All right, I'm gonna have to look into that one because I don't fully go with that. I believe it had a strong audience, but at the same time, one of the reasons to bring this up is there was a rumor a while back that the reason that this was canceled, along with another show, which give me 2 seconds to look this up. I actually wrote it out. Ah, crap! I didn't put it here. Tuca and Birdie, which was another show produced by the same studio,
Yes.
were both canceled around the same time.
Right.
And Tuca and Birdie was also critically acclaimed and had a strong following.
Right.
But both shows were canceled at the same time, and then it came out that the studio just unionized. So the rumor has been stirring around that was the reason for the cancellation. Now, I have read some other things and showing that it might not be true. There's been statements that the other animations that are done on Netflix are also unionized, so it wouldn't make sense that those companies are using a union, but the reason that this show was canceled is because they are now also part of the union.
Well, there's also the argument that I think in regards to Netflix, they are trying to veer their animation department in different directions. One thing is they're definitely trying to lean more on original anime. They're definitely trying to go down with
original anime?
Yes, like Netflix originals anime shows. So I think they're trying to lean some of it more into that direction where it has
I don't
like
even
that.
think they're I could be wrong, but I don't think they're actually producing those shows. I think they're just doing what Funimation does, and they're bringing them into Netflix and dubbing them.
If it says Netflix original, that's all they're going to promote it as. If it doesn't matter if they're drawing it hand to hand themselves or if they're simply like working in conjunction with someone else, it says Netflix original. That's all it says.
Yes.
But they're leaning on that. Plus, they also have the animation agreement with DreamWorks, where they've sponsored a lot of their shows, and that's more of a built-in audience for that kind of content, even if it's something silly like what was the one show they had?
The only thing I remember from
Mr. Peabody and Sherman. They had a show for that.
I tried watching that. I couldn't get into it.
No. And even then, I think the newest animated series they have for kids that came out was Fast and Furious. Now has a kid-oriented animated show. Yes.
Well, you know what? If RoboCop back in the day had a kid show and so many and Rambo had a kid show, I could see Fast and Furious.
At least those
getting
actually use the actual characters of Rambo and RoboCop. There's nobody from the original movie series in this damn thing. It's just kids and cars.
Too expensive to get the lookalike of Vin Diesel in there?
Oh, you mean John Cena?
Do. The brother. It's your brother that we haven't talked about in 20 years of these goddamn movies.
Well, that's because you couldn't see him.
It's like, can you see me now? Do.
Can you see the car whizzing by? Or no, invisible.
All right. Let's touch on Bojack, and then we'll move on to these other fine subjects.
Now, as far as Bojack is concerned, like I said, I think the way they ended it, regardless of whatever reasons they did end it for, very nicely done. You know, I really enjoyed everything kind of coming to a head. Very little, loose ends tied up on everything. And there's certainly a vagueness in the ending as to where people and things will go from here on out, especially once Bojack gets out of jail.
Hmm.
But as far as everyone in their own little space right now and how things kind of tied up nicely for most of them, that was like cathartic for me. I really felt like, it finally came to a head where it's not perfect, but it's as good as you're probably going to be able to get under these circumstances.
I'm a sucker for happy endings, and uh, I'm just gonna say, like, I wasn't completely satisfied with it, but I think it was a good ending for that series because that is the series in a nutshell. We won't go into detail. I know we said spoilers, but we won't go into detail about the episodes. If you've ever watched BoJack Horseman, it is BoJack Horseman, and it's just BoJack the whole way through, which is he's trying to improve his life, but he's BoJack, so he just keeps fucking it up all over again.
Right.
And in fact, that one that's I forget what episode number it was, but it was the one where like kind of the shoe dropped on Sarah Lynn, which basically, if you saw the first half of the season, it kind of ended on that cliffhanger of there were two reporters that were investigating Sarah Lynn and her death and BoJack's involvement in it. So there's the episode where it kind of drops and they know like, okay, it's going to get out there and stuff. So BoJack goes out on TV to fix it. And the next scene, because of how like serious it is and stuff, you kind of get that feeling. If you know twist, you're like, oh, everything's going to work out for him. And it does. And
For a second.
But it works out way too well. Like to the point that it starts building up his ego like, ooh, I'm a better person than I thought. Like, no, you're not. You're still a god-awful person. And you got away with it.
Yeah, and Princess Carolyn, instead of like
Don't
saying,
push
no,
it.
don't do it, it's like, you'll do what you want.
Yep, and he did it, and then he was the world's most hated man.
Yeah.
It could go into a little more detail
A
on
horse
what
of a
happened
different
from
color,
there.
if you will.
I won't. I know I spoiled a little bit for you there, but there's still a lot more to it, and it's still very Bo-Jacky, if I can say it that way.
Bo-Jacky?
Yeah.
Bo-Jacky.
That sounded awful. I want to take that back.
It was horse-manic. It's like...
I feel like if they continued the series where they ended in that second to last episode, that would have been the season finale. And because there was plenty to go to, like that last episode was kind of wrapping up what season 7, I think, would have been.
Well, I mean...
Because that feels like... Because, they mentioned a whole bunch of different plot lines in the final episode. That feels like that could have been all of season 7. That probably was where they're going to go with it. But instead, they just kind of condensed it real fast and went, okay, and now we're going to kind of cut it off here because the message we're trying to give you is life has no meaning except to just keep living.
A nihilistic view, yes.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's more the fact that you could have easily gone ahead and stretched out that whole final episode if you really wanted to. But I think the idea of it is it was just more of the same at that sense.
Yeah.
Mr. Peanut Butter was still Mr. Peanut Butter.
And
Princess Carolyn was probably still going to be her, except now she has a husband. That sort of stuff.
I think that's the point. Like you saw all this character development over the years, but then you realize, like, no, none of these characters have ever truly developed. They're the same people. They just have their ups and downs. Sometimes they're in a positive uphill, and then sometimes they're straight downhill.
I'd say there's some development in many of them. Maybe not so much in Todd, but certainly Princess Carolyn, I'd say, matured and realized that the career wasn't everything, and started being more about the people around her and her own future as a woman as opposed to just being an agent.
But, she keeps jumping off the deep end, too. Even when she had her own company and career and everything was working out correctly, she did have that split second where she's like, ooh, I can run my own studio. Right. So, that's in her, too, that if the right offer comes around, like, she can screw everything right back up, too, because she's still the same person.
But she has now support and help and a better sense of how to arrange.
She does, but that...
Thank God for Jonah.
But that's what I'm saying. It's just
tongue-in-cheek joke there.
It's like things are changing. It's not like they're the same exact person, but inside they don't change. They're still going to react to things the same way.
These people know who they are. They know what they are. They know their flaws. It's just a matter of being able to work at it one step at a time. I think the scene with Bojack and Todd on the beach really exemplified that. In the last
Yeah,
episode,
no, I saw it. I'm waiting for you to explain.
No, I mean that's what it was. I mean,
I remember. I hate watching other reviews and then giving my review because I'm just stealing that. You know what? I'm not gonna. I was gonna say someone else's review, but no. Listen. It's not my cup of tea. But if it were just at the end of a season, I would have loved it because it would have just enticed me to watch more to see where it develops the next season. As like an ending, I'm not satisfied. But I feel like that's what BoJack Horseman was. It was never about a total positive development. It was sort of the ups and downs of life, and it kind of ended in a note of, okay, well, this is where this chapter kind of ends, and then we move on.
And to be fair, I would say that probably you and I maybe have a little bit of a stronger stake in the story of it all because we, being people in the entertainment industry, seeing the kinds of stuff that people in that industry can go through and how universal it is, I think also has a nice feeling to it. Knowing that regardless of, whatever kind of career you want to have, whatever kind of fame you want to go towards, whatever kind of legacy you want to leave, especially whether it be media-oriented, these sort of trappings are going to happen to you regardless.
Well, yeah, and I think that's the point of the series was saying, like, don't try to leave a legacy. Like, that's just a pointless endeavor. Like, just live your life. That's the message I got from the show. Because that's what they all were like, this is my legacy. This is what I'm going to remember for, blah, blah, blah. And it just kind of crumbles in their hands, the plans of mice and men.
Right.
So, again, it's the message I got from it wasn't even, like, towards it being, like, towards the industry at all. It was just, live your life.
No, but I mean, it's a helpful message for any of us that are doing that do want to go ahead and try to build something, create something, and how that's necessarily going to be left on the table once we're no longer at the table ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So it's something to keep in mind, something to remember, something to focus on in the back of your mind, in a sense.
Just to remember, as Louis C.K. once told to his daughter, one day you'll be dead and the sun will explode.
Is Louis C.K. really the person we want to reference?
Just as I've said with Chris Benoit, you can like the performer but
Chris
hate the
Benoit
person.
Someone we want to reference.
I put it in this way: there's people that, like, you know what, they're an awful human being, but once in a while they make a good point.
As Bill Cosby once said, no.
Bill Cosby's had some good points.
No, we're not going there. No, this is
is he a good human being?
None of this
he's
sponsored
not.
by the Weinstein Company, I should mention. But
actually, that's the only one I don't have a positive for, other than the fact that we wouldn't have had Clerks without Harvey Weinstein
or The Matrix.
That's right. Damn it. Anyway,
all right. So moving away from a very touchy subject with touchy people, literally touchy people.